She's finally going to do something useful. The words hit me like a slap across the face. I froze in the hallway, my hand gripping the doorframe to the dining room where my family sat around the table, picking at Mum's overcooked pot roast. My sister Sadie was on her phone as usual, probably talking to one of her followers about our inspiring family journey. My name is Lillian, and I've been invisible in this house for 28 years. But apparently, now that my father needs a kidney and I'm the only match, I'm suddenly worth noticing. "Lil, get in here," Mum called out, her voice sharp with that familiar edge of impatience. "We need to discuss the surgery schedule." I walked into the room and sat down at my usual spot, the chair with the wobbly leg that no one ever bothered to fix. Dad didn't look up from his plate. He never did. Even now, with his skin the colour of old newspaper and his hands shaking from the dialysis, he couldn't be bothered to acknowledge me. "So, the doctor says we can schedule for next month," Mum continued, cutting her meat with aggressive precision. "That gives us time to get everything in order." "Get what in order?" I asked. Sadie finally looked up from her phone. "Oh my God, Lil, don't be dramatic. It's just surgery. People donate kidneys all the time." "Easy surgery for you to say. You're not the one going under the knife." "But you're the perfect match," Mum said, like that settled everything. "Dr. Morrison said your tissue compatibility is excellent. It's meant to be." Meant to be. Right. Like my autoimmune disease was meant to be too. Like the fact that major surgery could trigger a flare-up that might leave me bedridden for months was just a minor inconvenience. "What about the risks?" I asked. Dr. Morrison mentioned that, with my condition. "Oh, that's just doctor talk." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "They have to tell you all the scary stuff for legal reasons. You'll be fine." Sadie held up her phone. "Actually, this is perfect timing. I'm doing a series on family sacrifice and medical journeys. My engagement has been through the roof since I started posting about Dad's kidney disease." "You're not posting about my surgery," I said firmly. "Why not? It's inspiring. A daughter saving her father's life. My followers are eating this stuff up." "Because it's my body, Sadie. My medical information." She rolled her eyes. "God, you're so selfish. This could really help my brand. Do you know how many people would kill for this kind of authentic content?" Authentic content. That's what my potential suffering was to her. Content. Dad finally spoke up. "When do we schedule it?" Not, "How are you feeling about this, Lillian?" or "Are you scared?" Just when, like I was a spare part he'd ordered online. "I haven't agreed to anything yet," I said. The room went dead silent. Mum's fork clattered against her plate. "What do you mean you haven't agreed?" Mum's voice was dangerously quiet. "I mean, I need time to think about it, to understand all the risks, to talk to my own doctors." "Your own doctors?" Sadie laughed. "Lil, you're being ridiculous. Dad could die without this transplant. And I could have serious complications. My rheumatologist said." "Your rheumatologist doesn't know everything," Mum snapped. "Dr. Morrison is one of the best transplant surgeons in the state. If he says you'll be fine, you'll be fine." I looked around the table at their faces. Mum's mouth was set in that thin line that meant she was about to lose her temper. Sadie was already typing on her phone, probably crafting some post about ungrateful family members. And Dad was staring at his plate like this conversation was happening to someone else. "I just need some time," I said quietly. "Time?" Mum's voice rose. "Your father doesn't have time, Lillian. Every day we wait, he gets sicker. How can you be so selfish?" Selfish. The word I'd heard my entire life. Selfish for wanting to go to college out of state. Selfish for not visiting enough. Selfish for having a chronic illness that required attention and medical bills. Selfish for existing, basically. I stood up from the table. "I'm going to bed. We're not done talking about this," Mum called after me. But I was already walking away. my heart pounding in my chest. As I climbed the stairs, I heard Sadie's voice drift up from the dining room. "Don't worry, Mum. She'll come around. She always does." They could survive without me, if they tried for once. The appointment with Dr. Morrison was scheduled for Tuesday morning. Mum insisted on driving, which meant 40 minutes of her lecturing me about family duty, while NPR droned in the background. "Your father raised you," she said for the third time as we pulled into the hospital parking garage. "Fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. This is how you pay him back. By risking my life." "Don't be so dramatic, Lillian. It's outpatient surgery." I wanted to scream. Outpatient didn't mean risk-free, especially not for someone with an autoimmune disease. But explaining that to Mom was like trying to teach calculus to a brick wall. The waiting room was packed. Mum immediately started chatting with another woman about her brave daughter who was donating a kidney. I sank deeper into my chair and tried to disappear. "Lillian Kelly?" A nurse called my name. Dr. Morrison's office was all diplomas and family photos. He was younger than I'd expected, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. The kind of doctor who actually listened when you talked. "So, Lillian, how are you feeling about the procedure?" he asked, settling behind his desk. Before I could answer, Mom jumped in. "She's ready. We just need to schedule it." Dr. Morrison's eyes stayed on me. "Lillian, I have some concerns," I said, "about my autoimmune condition. My rheumatologist mentioned that major surgery could trigger a flare." "That's a valid concern," he said, making a note. "Have you discussed this with Dr. Patterson?" "Who's Dr. Patterson?" Mum asked. "My rheumatologist. And yes, I have. She's worried about—" "Dr. Morrison," Mom interrupted, "surely you've dealt with patients who have minor health issues before? Lillian's condition is very manageable." Minor health issues? I'd been hospitalized twice last year during flares, but sure, minor. Dr. Morrison looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Kelly, I need to hear from Lillian directly about her medical history and concerns." "Of course," Mum said, but she didn't stop talking. "It's just that time is so critical here. James is getting weaker every day. We can't afford to overthink this." "Actually," Dr. Morrison said carefully, "there are other options we should discuss. Paired kidney exchange programs, for instance." "What's that?" I asked. "It's when incompatible donor-recipient pairs swap kidneys. So, if you can't donate to your father for medical reasons, you might donate to someone else, and their intended donor would give to your father." Mom's face went white. "But Lillian is compatible. You said so yourself. Compatibility isn't just about blood type and tissue matching," Dr. Morrison explained. "We have to consider the donor's overall health and surgical risks." "What kind of risks?" I asked. Dr. Morrison pulled out a pamphlet. "For someone with your autoimmune condition, there's an increased risk of infection, delayed healing, and potential for triggering a severe flare that could affect your remaining kidney function." The room went silent. Mum was staring at the pamphlet like it had personally offended her. "How increased?" I pressed. "Significantly higher than the general population. I'd want you to get clearance from both your rheumatologist and an immunologist before we proceed." "This is ridiculous," Mum said. "You're scaring her unnecessarily." "Mrs. Kelly, informed consent means understanding all the risks." "But she's the only match in the family. Sadie wasn't compatible and I'm too old." "Which is why I mentioned the paired exchange program," Dr. Morrison said patiently. "It might be a safer option for everyone involved." Mom stood up abruptly. "We need to discuss this as a family." "Come on, Lillian." In the car, Mom was silent until we hit the highway. Then she exploded. "I can't believe that doctor is trying to talk you out of this. Your father is dying, Lillian. Dying. And you're worried about some theoretical risks?" "They're not theoretical if they happen to me." You're being selfish. Again. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Kimberly. How did the appointment go? Another buzz. This one from Brian, the family lawyer who'd been Dad's friend since college. Your mum called me, said you're having second thoughts. Want to talk? Who are you texting? Mom demanded. Kimberly. Don't go filling her head with nonsense about this. She doesn't understand family obligations. When we got home, Sadie was in the kitchen, filming herself making a smoothie. She had her ring light set up and everything. Hey guys! So today, my sister had her pre-surgery consultation, and I'm feeling so emotional about this journey we're all on together. Turn that off, I said. What? I'm just sharing our story. It's not your story to share. She lowered her phone. God, what's your problem? You've been weird about this whole thing. My problem is that you're treating Dad's kidney disease like content for your Instagram. I'm raising awareness about organ donation. Do you know how many lives I could save by sharing our experience? What about my life? What if something goes wrong during surgery? Sadie rolled her eyes. Nothing's going to go wrong. You're being paranoid. That night, I sat in my room researching paired kidney exchanges. The more I read, the more it made sense. There were people all over the country in similar situations, willing donors who couldn't give to their intended recipients for medical reasons. My phone rang. Brian. Hey, kiddo, your mum said you're having doubts. I'm having concerns about the medical risks. That's smart. You should be asking questions. Really? Of course. This is major surgery, Lil. You have every right to understand what you're getting into. For the first time in weeks, someone was treating me like a person instead of a walking organ. Brian, can I ask you something? Legally, I mean. Shoot. Do I have to donate? Like, legally? There was a pause. No, sweetheart. You absolutely do not have to donate. No one can force you to undergo surgery. I closed my eyes and felt something loosen in my chest. Okay, thank you. Lil, whatever you decide, make sure it's what you want, not what anyone else wants. After I hung up, I stared at my laptop screen. The Paired Exchange Program website was still open. There was a contact form at the bottom of the page. I started typing. The Paired Exchange coordinator called me back within 2 days. Her name was Janet, and she had the kind of calm, professional voice that made you feel like everything might actually work out. So, you're interested in our program? She asked. I was hiding in my car during lunch break, parked behind the law office where I worked. Yes, but I need to understand how it works exactly. Well, it's fairly straightforward. We match incompatible pairs. You donate to someone else's recipient, and their donor would give to your father. And my family wouldn't know it was me who arranged it? Janet paused. That's unusual. Typically, families coordinate these things together. My situation is complicated. I see. Well, yes, we can arrange it so the donation appears to come through our standard matching process. But, Lillian, I have to ask, are you being pressured to donate? The question hung in the air. Was I being pressured, or was this just normal family expectations? It's complicated, I repeated. Okay, why don't you come in next week? We can discuss your options in person. That evening, Sadie cornered me in the kitchen while I was making dinner. So, I've been thinking about the surgery content, she said, leaning against the counter. I want to document everything, the prep, the actual day, your recovery. My followers are so invested in this story. I said no filming. Come on, Lil, this could be huge for both of us. I could get you a cut of the sponsorship money. I don't want sponsorship money from my surgery. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling. Look at these comments on my last post. Your sister is so brave. What an inspiration. Family goals. People are really connecting with this. I read over her shoulder. The post was a photo of Dad looking frail in his hospital bed, with the caption, "My dad's kidney journey continues. Praying my sister finds the courage to step up." Family, first. Jacques organ donation. Jacques prayers needed. You posted a picture of Dad in the hospital without asking him? He was asleep, and it's raising awareness. Delete it. What? No, it has over 3,000 likes. Sadie, delete the post. You're being ridiculous. It's not even about you. But it was about me. The comments were full of people praising my upcoming sacrifice and calling me a hero. Some were even asking when the surgery was scheduled so they could follow the journey. If you don't delete it, I'll report it to Instagram for posting medical information without consent. Her eyes narrowed. You wouldn't? Try me. She stared at me for a long moment, then started typing angrily on her phone. Fine, but you're being a total bitch about this. The next morning, Mum ambushed me at breakfast. I scheduled your pre-op appointment for Friday, she announced, sliding a piece of paper across the table. Dr. Morrison wants to do some additional blood work. I haven't agreed to the surgery yet. Lillian, stop this nonsense. Your father's condition is deteriorating. Then maybe we should look into that paired exchange program Dr. Morrison mentioned. Mum's coffee mug hit the table with a sharp clink. Why would we do that when you're a perfect match? Because it might be safer for me. Safer? She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You know what's not safe? Letting your father die because you're too scared to help him. That's not fair. Fair? Mum's voice rose. You want to talk about fair? Fair is that I've spent 30 years taking care of this family. Fair is that your father worked 2 jobs to pay for your college. Fair is that when someone in this family needs help, we help them. Even if it kills me? Don't be so dramatic, you're not going to die. But I could see it in her eyes. Even if I did, she'd find a way to make it my fault. That afternoon, I met Janet at the hospital. She was a small woman with grey hair and kind eyes, the kind of person who'd probably heard every family horror story in the book. Tell me about your situation, she said, settling into her chair. My father needs a kidney. I'm the only family match, but I have an autoimmune disease that makes surgery risky. And your family's response to those risks? I stared at my hands. They think I'm being selfish. Janet nodded slowly. How do you feel about donating? Terrified. Not just of the surgery, but of what happens if something goes wrong. If I have complications, if I can't work, if I need care myself, they'll resent me for it. That's a lot to carry. I love my father, I said quickly. I want him to live, but I also want to live. Of course you do. That's not selfish, Lillian, that's human. We spent an hour going over the paired exchange process. Janet explained that they had several potential matches for Dad, and that my kidney could help someone else's father, mother, child. There's one more thing, I said as we wrapped up. If I do this, I don't want my family to know I arranged it. I want them to think it just happened through the regular system. That's possible, but, Lillian, have you considered that this might not solve the underlying problem with your family? What do you mean? Well, they'll still expect you to be available for the next crisis, the next time someone needs something. I thought about that as I drove home. She was right, of course. But maybe that was a problem for future me to solve. That night, I sat at my laptop and started typing. Not an email to Janet, but something else. Something I'd been thinking about for days. A letter to my family, explaining everything I'd never been able to say out loud. I wrote for 2 hours, deleting and rewriting, trying to find the words for 28 years of feeling invisible. When I finished, I printed it out and sealed it in an envelope. Then I called Janet. I want to do the paired exchange, I said, and I want to give you this letter to read to my family when the time comes. Are you sure about this, Lillian? I looked around my childhood bedroom, at the participation trophies and honour roll certificates that no one had ever celebrated, at the medical bills stacked on my desk that I'd been paying myself since I turned 18. I'm sure, the morning of the scheduled surgery, I woke up at 5 a.m. to the sound of Mum banging around in the kitchen. She was making Dad's last meal before surgery. Scrambled eggs and toast, like he was going to the electric chair instead of getting a life-saving transplant. I packed my suitcase quietly, folding clothes I'd bought specifically for this moment. A week's worth of outfits for a new life. My hand shook as I zipped it closed and slid it under my bed. "Lil, breakfast?" Mum called. Downstairs, the whole family was gathered around the kitchen table. Dad sat there looking pale and resigned, picking at his eggs. Sadie had her phone propped up against the orange juice pitcher, filming herself eating oatmeal. "Good morning, beautiful souls," she said to her camera. "Today is the big day. In a few hours, my incredible sister will be giving our father the gift of life." I sat down and poured myself coffee. My phone buzzed, a text from Kimberly. "You ready?" I typed back. "As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, I'm picking you up at 7:30. Your Uber to the airport is at 8:15. "Lil, you're not eating?" Mum observed, eyeing my untouched toast. "I'm not supposed to eat before surgery." "Right, of course." She turned back to fussing over Dad. "James, you need to eat something. You'll need your strength." "I'm not hungry," Dad mumbled. "Well, you have to try. Dr. Morrison said..." "Sarah, please." Dad's voice was sharper than usual. "I know what the doctor said." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Sadie kept filming, probably loving the raw family tension for her content. "So, after the surgery," Mum continued, "I thought we could all have dinner together. Celebrate." "I'll probably be pretty out of it," I said. "Oh, you'll be fine. It's laparoscopic surgery. You'll be up and walking around in no time." "Right," because she was a medical expert now. My phone buzzed again. "Kimberly." "I'm outside." I stood up. "I need to get something from my car." "What?" Mum asked. "Is it just something I forgot?" I walked outside where Kimberly was waiting in her Honda, engine running. She rolled down the window. "You sure about this?" she asked. "I'm sure. Your family's going to lose their minds." "Good. Maybe they'll finally understand what it feels like to be abandoned." I went back inside and grabbed my purse from the counter. Mum was loading the dishwasher, Dad had disappeared, and Sadie was still filming herself. "Okay, we should head to the hospital soon," Mum said. "Traffic might be bad." "Actually, I need to run an errand first." "An errand? Lillian, we don't have time for errands." "It'll just take a few minutes." "What kind of errand?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman who'd spent my entire life treating me like an inconvenience, except when she needed something from me. "I need to pick up my prescription," I lied. "Which prescription?" "The one Dr. Morrison prescribed for after surgery." She frowned. "I thought they were giving you that at the hospital." "This is a different one, for my autoimmune condition." "Fine, but make it quick. We need to be there by 9. I walked upstairs to get my suitcase, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. When I came back down, I set it by the front door. "Why do you have a suitcase?" Sadie asked, finally looking up from her phone. "Recovery supplies, clothes, books, stuff like that." "You're not staying at the hospital overnight." "I know, but I might need to stay somewhere quiet for a few days while I recover." Mum appeared in the doorway. "Stay where?" "Maybe Kimberly's place. You know how loud it gets here." "Loud?" Mum's voice went up an octave. "This house is not loud. With Sadie filming all the time and everyone coming and going." "I'm not filming all the time," Sadie protested. "You literally filmed breakfast this morning." That was different. That was documenting a historic family moment. I picked up my suitcase and purse. "I'll be back in a few minutes." "Lillian," Mum's voice stopped me at the door. You're acting strange. I'm about to have major surgery. I think I'm allowed to act a little strange. But you're coming back, right? We're all going to the hospital together. I looked at her face, at the worry lines around her eyes. For a split second, I almost felt guilty. Almost. Of course I'm coming back. The lie tasted bitter in my mouth. I walked out to Kimberly's car and threw my suitcase in the back seat. Through the kitchen window, I could see Mom washing dishes and Sadie still filming herself. Dad was nowhere to be seen. Drive, I said. Kimberly pulled away from the curb. No second thoughts? None. What about your dad? What about him? He'll get his kidney, just not from me. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Then Kimberly asked, What do you think they'll do when they realise you're gone? Panic. Blame me. Probably call the police. And then they'll find out about the paired exchange, and they'll read my letter. What did you say in the letter? I stared out the window at the suburban streets I'd grown up on. Everything I should have said years ago. At the airport, Kimberly hugged me tight. Text me when you land. I will. And Lil? You're doing the right thing. I hope so. I walked into the terminal and didn't look back. My phone was buzzing constantly now, probably Mum wondering where I was. I turned it off and dropped it in a trash can near the security checkpoint. Let them wonder. As my plane taxied down the runway, I imagined the scene at the hospital. Dr. Morrison walking into the waiting room with my letter, Mum's face when she realised I wasn't coming back, Sadie's followers watching her perfect family narrative collapse in real time. The plane lifted off, and I watched my old life shrink away below me. For the first time in 28 years, I was free. I found out what happened at the hospital through a series of increasingly frantic texts that Kimberly forwarded to my new phone. She'd stayed in touch with Brian, who was apparently fielding calls from my family like he was running a crisis hotline. The first message came at 9:47 a.m. Where is she? Mom. Then. Lillian isn't answering her phone. Surgery was supposed to start an hour ago. Brian. By noon, the messages had escalated. She's not at her apartment. Her car is in the driveway, but she's gone. Sadie. But the one that made my stomach drop came at 2:15 p.m. Doctor wants to see us. He has an envelope. Brian Kimberly called me from the hotel room I'd rented 3 states away. Lil, Brian just texted me. They're all in Dr. Morrison's office right now. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the generic hotel art on the wall. Is he reading the letter? I think so. Brian's not responding to my texts anymore. I'd spent 3 days writing that letter, pouring 28 years of silence onto 4 pages. Every dismissal, every time they'd treated me like furniture, every medical bill I'd paid alone while they complained about their own problems. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Lillian? It was Brian's voice, but he sounded exhausted. Jesus Christ, where are you? I'm safe. Your family is losing their minds. Your mother is, well, she's not handling this well. What did Dr. Morrison tell them? He read your letter, all of it. I closed my eyes. And? Your mum fainted. Sadie started screaming at the doctor like this was his fault. Your dad just sat there. What about the paired exchange? Dr. Morrison explained that you'd arranged for a kidney through the program, that your father would still get his transplant, just not from you. When? Next week, if the family agrees to the conditions? The conditions. I'd almost forgotten about those. They have to agree to family counselling, Brian continued. Mandatory sessions with a hospital therapist before and after the surgery. Dr. Morrison said it's hospital policy when there are family dynamics that might affect patient care. That wasn't hospital policy. That was me. I figured, Lil, what the hell did you write in that letter? I walked to the hotel window and looked out at a city where no one knew my name. The truth. Well, your truth just blew up your family. Sadie's been posting non-stop about how you abandoned them. The comments are not pretty. What kind of comments? People calling you selfish, heartless. But also, he paused. Also, a lot of people defending you, saying your family sounds toxic. Sadie's losing followers. Good. Let her feel what it was like to be abandoned for once. Brian, can I ask you something? Shoot. In all the years you've known my family, did you ever notice how they treated me? There was a long silence. Yeah, kiddo, I noticed. Why didn't you ever say anything? I should have, I'm sorry. That evening, Kimberly sent me screenshots of Sadie's Instagram stories. The first few were typical Sadie drama, crying selfies with captions like, "When family betrays you," and "Pray for my father." But then, the comments started turning. Someone had posted, "Your sister was supposed to risk her life, and you're mad she chose herself." Yikes. Another, "Maybe ask yourself why she felt like she had to disappear instead of just saying no." And then, "I've been following your family journey, and honestly, your sister sounds like she's been your family's unpaid therapist, an ATM for years." Sadie tried to control the narrative with a long post about family loyalty and sacrifice, but it backfired spectacularly. People started dissecting her previous posts, pointing out how she'd treated my potential surgery-like content, how she'd never mentioned my health concerns or fears. The next morning, Brian called again. "Your family had their first counselling session yesterday. How did it go?" "About as well as you'd expect. The therapist asked them to describe their relationship with you. Your mum spent 20 minutes talking about how difficult you've always been." Of course she did. But then the therapist asked for specific examples, and when your mum couldn't give any that didn't make her sound terrible, Sadie jumped in. "Oh, no." She started talking about how you never supported her career, how you were jealous of her success. The therapist asked what kind of support she'd given you for your health issues. And Sadie said, and I quote, "That's different. Her disease isn't that serious." I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. In front of a medical professional. Gets better. The therapist then asked your dad to describe a positive memory he had of you. He couldn't think of one, Lil. Not one. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd known it, of course, but hearing it confirmed was different. The therapist told them the transplant is on hold pending further evaluation. What kind of evaluation? Psychological evaluation of the family dynamics. Apparently, there are concerns about whether your father would have adequate emotional support during recovery. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. "Brian, there's something else I need to tell you." "What?" "I'm not coming back. Ever." "Lil, I mean it. I'm done. They can have their kidney. They can have their counselling, but they can't have me." "What about your job? Your apartment?" "I already gave notice. Kimberly's packing up my stuff." "Where will you go?" I looked out at the city sprawling below my hotel window. Somewhere out there was a new life waiting for me. Somewhere they'll never think to look. 3 weeks after I disappeared, Sadie posted a tearful apology video. Kimberly sent me the link with a message. "You need to see this train wreck." I was sitting in a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon, using the free Wi-Fi and trying to decide if I should dye my hair. The barista had been flirting with me all week, and I was starting to think maybe I could have a normal life here. Then I clicked on Sadie's video. "Hey, everyone," she said, her face blotchy and makeup-free. "I need to address some things that have been said about my family and my sister." The comments were already brutal. "Too little, too late." "Where was this energy when your sister needed support?" Your follower count says everything. She'd lost over half her followers in 3 weeks. Her sponsorship deals had dried up after people started calling her out for exploiting family trauma. I realised now that I may have misrepresented some things about our situation, she continued. My sister was dealing with serious health concerns that I didn't fully understand. May have misrepresented. Classic Sadie. My phone buzzed. Brian. Your mom's been emailing you, he said when I answered. I don't have access to that email anymore. She wants you to know that your dad's surgery is scheduled for next week. The family passed their psychological evaluation. Barely, I'm guessing. The therapist recommended ongoing counselling for at least 6 months. Your mum's not happy about it. I bet she's not. Lil, she's also asking if you'll come to the surgery, just to be there. I laughed out loud, causing the barista to look over with concern. She wants me to come support the family that drove me to flee the state? I told her it was unlikely. Good call. There's something else. The therapist asked to speak with you. She thinks your perspective would be valuable for your family's treatment. My perspective is that they're toxic and I'm better off without them. Maybe that's exactly what she needs to hear. That evening, I called Dr. Sarah Martinez, the family therapist. She had a warm voice with a slight accent, and she didn't waste time on pleasantries. Lillian, thank you for calling. I've been working with your family for 3 weeks now. How's that going? It's challenging. They're very resistant to examining their own behaviour patterns. That sounds about right. I've read your letter, the one you left for Dr. Morrison to share. It was quite illuminating. I tried to be honest. You were. Perhaps more honest than they were prepared for. Can you tell me about your decision to leave? You mean, besides the fact that they were treating me like a spare parts catalogue? Dr. Martinez was quiet for a moment. In our sessions, your family presents a very different narrative. They describe you as someone who was always difficult, who had trouble maintaining relationships. Of course they do. But your letter tells a different story. Medical bills you paid alone, family events you attended despite being ill, years of being dismissed and overlooked. Did they deny any of it? They reframed it. Your mother said you were independent and didn't ask for help. Your sister said you were private about your health issues. I almost hung up. This was exactly why I'd left. Lillian, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest. Okay. Do you believe your father deserves to live? The question caught me off guard. Of course I do, but you arranged for him to receive a kidney through the paired exchange program, knowing it would come with conditions that would force your family into therapy. Yes. Why? I stared out the coffee shop window at people walking by, living their normal lives. Because I wanted them to understand what they'd done to me, and because maybe, if they got help, they could be better people. That's a very generous way to look at it. Or a very vindictive one, perhaps both. Lillian, your family is struggling. Your father's surgery is next week, but the emotional work is just beginning. Your mother is having panic attacks. Your sister's career has essentially collapsed. Good. Is it? Is their suffering making you feel better? I thought about that. Was it? When I saw Sadie's follower count dropping, when Brian told me about Mum's panic attacks, did I feel satisfied? Sometimes, I admitted. That's honest and normal. You were hurt for a very long time. I was invisible for 28 years. You're not invisible now. No, I'm not. Lillian, I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. I'd like you to write another letter, not to your family, but to me, about what you need from them to even consider having any kind of relationship in the future. I don't want a relationship with them. You might not. But you arranged for your father to get a kidney. You could have just disappeared and let him die. You didn't. She was right, and I hated that she was right. What would happen to the letter? I'd read it in our next family session. Let them hear what it would take for you to even consider speaking to them again. They'll never agree to it. Maybe not, but they might surprise you. After I hung up, I sat in the coffee shop until closing time, thinking about what Dr. Martinez had said. The barista, his name was Marcus, came over as I was packing up my laptop. "You okay? You look like you're wrestling with something big." "My family," I said, "they're complicated." "Aren't they all?" "Not like this." He sat down across from me. "Want to talk about it?" And for the first time in my life, I told a complete stranger the truth about my family. All of it. Marcus listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions, never trying to fix anything. When I finished, he said, "Sounds like you're the sanest one in the bunch. Or the most vindictive. Maybe both. But you know what? Sometimes people need consequences to change." That night, I started writing the second letter. This one was harder than the first because it wasn't about the past. It was about the future, and I wasn't sure I wanted them to have one with me in it. The second letter took me 4 days to write. I must have started over a dozen times, trying to find the right words for what I needed from them. Not what I wanted. That ship had sailed. But what I needed to even consider them human beings worth knowing. Dr. Martinez called me the morning she planned to read it to my family. "Are you sure about this, Lillian? Once I read this letter, there's no taking it back." "I'm sure. It's quite specific and demanding." "Good. They've had 28 years to figure out how to treat me like a person. Now, they get a roadmap. Some of your conditions are going to be very difficult for them. Then they'll have to decide what's more important, their pride or having me in their lives." That afternoon, Brian called me. I was at the Portland Art Museum, trying to distract myself by looking at paintings I didn't understand. "Jesus, Lil, what did you put in that letter?" "The truth, again. Your mum walked out halfway through, just got up and left. And?" Sadie started crying. Not her usual dramatic crying. Real crying. Your dad asked the therapist to read it again." "What specifically made Mum leave?" "The part where you said she needed to acknowledge, out loud, every time she dismissed your health concerns, with specific dates and examples." I'd spent hours going through old medical records and journals, documenting every time Mum had minimised my symptoms, every time she'd made me feel guilty for being sick. "What about the apology requirement?" That's where Sadie lost it. She said she couldn't apologise for things she didn't remember doing. So she admits she doesn't remember how she treated me. Pretty much. The therapist pointed that out too. I found a bench in front of a painting of a woman alone in a field. She looked peaceful, like she'd found something the rest of the world was still searching for. "Brian, what did Dad say when they read the part about him?" There was a long pause. "He said he didn't know how to be a father to you." That hit harder than I expected. "At least he's honest." He also said he wanted to try, if you'd let him. Wanting and doing are different things. I know, but Lil, I've never seen him like this. He's scared. Of dying without ever knowing his daughter. 2 days later, Kimberly forwarded me a screenshot of Sadie's latest Instagram post. It was a photo of her sitting in what looked like a therapist's office. No makeup, hair in a messy bun. The caption read, "Taking a break from social media to work on myself. I've hurt people I love, and I need to figure out how to be better. Some of you have been asking about my sister. She was right to leave. I hope someday I can earn the chance to tell her that." The comments were surprisingly supportive. People talking about their own family therapy experiences, about learning to take accountability. Marcus found me crying in the coffee shop that evening. Bad news? He asked, sliding into the seat across from me. I don't know. Maybe good news. I can't tell anymore. Family stuff? I showed him Sadie's post. He read it twice. Sounds like progress. Or manipulation. She's good at saying what people want to hear. Maybe. But posting about therapy? That's not exactly on brand for an influencer. He was right. Sadie's whole image was about having the perfect life, the perfect family, the perfect everything. Admitting she needed help was career suicide. What if they actually change? I asked. What if they don't? Then I stay here and build a new life. And if they do? I stared out the window at the Portland skyline. I don't know. That night, Dr. Martinez called again. Your family wants to respond to your letter? Respond? How? They want to write you a letter, each of them, addressing the specific points you raised. I don't want to read their excuses. Not excuses. Accountability. I've made it clear that any letter needs to acknowledge what they did wrong, not explain why they did it. What's the difference? I dismissed your health concerns because I was stressed about money is an excuse. I dismissed your health concerns and that was wrong is accountability. And you think they can do that? Your sister is already working on hers. Your father asked for help writing his because he says he doesn't know how to put feelings into words. Your mother? Let me guess. Mum's refusing. She's struggling with the concept that her intentions don't matter if the impact was harmful. Classic Mum. Lillian, there's something else. Your father's surgery is tomorrow. My stomach dropped. How is he? Nervous. He asked if you were coming. What did you tell him? That you were thinking about him? I am. Are you thinking about coming? I closed my eyes. No, I can't. Not yet. That's okay. Healing isn't linear and it's not on anyone else's timeline. The next morning, I sat in the coffee shop, refreshing Brian's text messages. At 11 a.m., surgery started. At 2 p.m. Everything went well. New kidney is working perfectly. At 4 p.m., he's awake. First thing he said was, "Is Lillian okay?" I stared at that last message for a long time. In 28 years, I couldn't remember my father ever asking if I was okay. Marcus found me there at closing time, still staring at my phone. Good news or bad news? Good news. My father's surgery was successful. That's great. Why do you look like someone died? Because now I have to decide what comes next. What do you want to come next? I looked at this man who barely knew me, but had shown me more kindness in a month than my family had in years. I want to be okay with whatever I choose. Are you? Getting there. That night, I started writing a third letter, not to my family, but to myself, about who I wanted to be now that I wasn't defined by their expectations or their neglect. For the first time in my life, I was writing my own story. 6 weeks after Dad's surgery, 3 letters arrived at my Portland P.O. box. I recognized the handwriting on all of them. Even Dad's shaky scrawl looked familiar. I carried them to the coffee shop where Marcus was working the morning shift. He took one look at my face and poured me a double shot of espresso. The family letters? Yeah. You going to read them? Eventually. I sat at my usual table by the window and stared at the envelopes. Sadie's was thick, probably 10 pages. Dad's was thin, maybe 2 pages. Mum's was medium-sized, and her handwriting looked different somehow. Less controlled. I opened Dad's first. Lillian. I don't know how to write this. Dr. Martinez says I should tell you what I did wrong, not why I did it. So here goes. I was never a father to you. I was in the house, but I wasn't present. When you were sick, I left it to your mother. When you needed help, I assumed someone else would handle it. When you tried to talk to me, I acted like you were bothering me. I don't remember your high school graduation speech. I don't remember what you studied in college. I don't remember the last time I asked how you were feeling. You saved my life by arranging that kidney donation. But more than that, you saved me from dying without ever knowing what I'd lost. I lost my daughter because I never tried to know her. I can't fix 28 years. But if you'll let me, I'd like to try to be your father now, even if it's too late. Love. Dad. P.S. I'm learning to cook. Mom says you like lasagna. I had to put the letter down. My hands were shaking. Marcus appeared with a box of tissues. That bad? That good? Which is somehow worse. Sadie's letter was next. Her handwriting was messier than usual, like she'd been crying while writing it. Lil. I've started this letter 50 times. Dr. Martinez keeps making me rewrite it because I keep trying to explain instead of just owning what I did. So, here's what I did. I treated you like my personal assistant instead of my sister. I used your medical crisis for content. I dismissed your fears about surgery because they were inconvenient for my narrative. I called you selfish when you were actually the most selfless person in our family. I made everything about me, including your pain. I've been going through my old posts, and I can see it now. Every family photo where you look uncomfortable, every family update where I talked about everyone except you. Every time I asked you to help me with something, but never asked how you were doing. I deleted my Instagram account, not because of the backlash, but because I realized I was performing my life instead of living it. And I was making you perform too. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't know if I deserve it. But I want you to know that I see you now. I see what I missed. I see what I lost. I love you. I should have said that more. Sadie. P.S. I'm in therapy twice a week now. Turns out I have a lot to work on. Mum's letter was the hardest to read. Lillian. Dr. Martinez says I need to take responsibility for my actions without defending them. This is very difficult for me because I spent your entire life believing I was a good mother. I was not a good mother to you. I made you responsible for managing everyone else's emotions while ignoring your own. I treated your illness like an inconvenience. I made you feel guilty for needing help while expecting you to help everyone else without complaint. When you were 12 and had that bad flare-up, you asked me to stay home from work to take care of you. I said I couldn't because Sadie had a school play. You never asked me to stay home again. When you were 22 and couldn't afford your medication, you sold your laptop to pay for it. I found out months later and never offered to help. I told myself you were learning independence. When you tried to talk to me about your fears before the surgery, I called you dramatic because it was easier than admitting I was scared too. I failed you in every way a mother can fail a child. I made you invisible in your own family. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that I see what I did, and I'm sorry. Mom. I sat in that coffee shop for 2 hours, reading and rereading those letters. Marcus kept checking on me, refilling my coffee, not asking questions. Finally, I pulled out my phone and called Dr. Martinez. Lillian? I was hoping you'd call. Did you receive the letters? I did. What did you think? I think they actually get it. Finally! They do. It's been a difficult process, but they're doing the work. How's Dad? Physically, he's doing very well. The new kidney is functioning perfectly. Emotionally, he's different, quieter, more thoughtful. He asks about you every session. And, Mum? Your mother is struggling the most with accepting responsibility, but she's trying. She's been reading books about emotional neglect, attending a support group for parents who've damaged relationships with their children. What about Sadie? Sadie's made the most dramatic changes. She's completely stepped back from social media, started volunteering at a local hospital. She says she wants to understand what it's like to help people without getting anything in return. I stared out the window at people walking by, living their normal lives. Dr. Martinez, what happens now? That's up to you. They're all committed to continuing therapy, with or without you. But they'd like the chance to show you they've changed. And if I say no, then you say no. You don't owe them anything, Lillian. Not forgiveness, not a relationship, not even a response to these letters. That evening, I called Brian. How are you holding up, kiddo? Better than I expected. Worse than I hoped. That sounds about right. Your family's been asking if I've heard from you. What do you tell them? That you're safe and that's all they need to know. Brian, can I ask you something? Always. Do you think people can really change? Some people. The ones who want to badly enough. Do you think they want to? I think losing you scared them more than your dad's kidney failure did. And that's saying something. I walked to the window of my small apartment and looked out at the Portland skyline. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably closing up the coffee shop. Somewhere else, my family was going to bed in a house that felt different without me in it. Brian, I need you to give them a message. What's the message? Tell them I got their letters. Tell them I'm proud of them for doing the work. And tell them I'm not ready to come home yet, but I'm not ruling it out forever. That's a good message, Lil. And Brian, tell Dad his lasagna better be amazing when I finally try it. He laughed. I'll tell him. I hung up and sat down at my laptop. For the first time in months, I started writing. Not a letter to my family, but something else. A story about a woman who disappeared and found herself. A story about the price of revenge and the cost of freedom. A story about learning that sometimes the best gift you can give someone is showing them who they really are, even when it hurts. I titled it, My Father Needed a Kidney, and I was the only match. Then I started typing. They could survive without me, if they tried for once. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some have necessary ones. This was mine.